Hello and welcome, Woodrow Wilson friends, family, and students. This is Miss Fields here, joining you for another episode of Math Toolbox. So this is episode number 13, and it is part 2 of our culminating part of the unit on decimals and operations with decimals. So this is pretty much the hardest thing that you're going to have to do in using operations with decimals. It's going to combine skills and understanding of place value. It's going to require you to understand multiplication. It's going to require you to understand subtraction, and also how to analyze and interpret a word problem. So typically, as with most of the operations that we use in 5th grade, it is usually going to be accompanied by some type of word problem. So let's use this as an example. Jamie has 96 cents. He wants to buy erasers that cost 6 cents each. How many erasers can he buy? Now, there's not that many sentences in this word problem, so it's not too overwhelming. However, I'm a little confused about what to do next. I'm confused about what operation we're using. And so if you have any confusion with a word problem, immediately think graphic organizer, think Foursquare. So off to the side, I have my word problem, and I have my UKT, my solve, my guess and check, and my state my solution. So all of my work is ready to be organized and to be sectioned off so that I can understand what to do. So again, as I always explain whenever we're analyzing a word problem, we start with U, which is our units. And our units are usually accompanying our numbers located inside of the word problem. So we've got 96 cents. And we also have 6 cents. So we know that both of our units are related to money. So we've got money and money. However, usually 5th graders think that because there are matching units, we are going to be adding or subtracting. Sometimes when units match, it may not be addition or subtraction. Addition or subtraction may not make sense for the word problem. And this is an example of how it would not make sense. So we need to move on through our word problem, and we need to look for keywords. So I'm seeing that each is one of our keywords. Each implies that we will be multiplying or dividing, so we need to look a little bit further into the problem. Our next step is, do we know the total or can we find the total? So do we know how much money Jimmy has, or do we need to find out how much money Jimmy has? So we know after reading our problem and rereading it, we know that Jimmy has 96 cents in total. He's not getting any more cents. However, he wants to see how many erasers he can get for 6 cents each. We know the total, therefore, we know that we are dividing. We're dividing up the amount of money that Jimmy has by the cost of the erasers. Now, one little chant that we use to help remember what to do if there is a decimal in the divisor is that we need to move it until the divisor has a whole number instead of a decimal-like number. So right now we have 6 hundredths in our divisor, so we need to move our decimal 2 times in order to make that 6 hundredths into a whole number of 6. However, if we move our decimal on the outside, we have to do the exact same thing on the inside so that it does not affect our quotient. So if we've got 6 hundredths, we've got to move it, and same goes for our 96 hundredths, move it. That being said, we've got our decimal right here. We know from our previous video that if there's a decimal in the house, you got to raise the roof, which means you need to extend that decimal from the dividend up into the quotient so that you have proper place value placement. So we've moved our decimal so that our divisor is a whole number. We've moved our decimal in our dividend to make sure that we did the exact same thing to the inside as we did to the outside. And now we're going to begin our division process. Remember, there's always 4 steps to our division problem. First we divide, then we multiply, then we subtract and bring down. So starting from left to right, we observe our digits in the dividend, and we see how many groups that we can take away from each digit and then move from there. So looking at our digit 9, we are going to see on our multiplication chart, and I know that you guys can't see my check and guess right now, but I would be recording these answers in my check and guess section of my Foursquare. I'm thinking in my mind, how many groups of 6 can I take away from 9? Now I know that 2 groups of 6 would equal 12. 12 is too much. You can't subtract 12 from 9 unless you want to get a negative number, which we're not going to go into today. So I know that 2 groups is too much, so I'm going to go back one. 1 group is the perfect amount. So we divided. We've got 1 group of 6. Now we need to multiply. 6 times 1 is 6. Next step is subtract. 9 minus 6 is 3. Last step is bring down. Now, some 5th graders get really confused whenever we've got numbers down here. They don't know what to do with them next. You're going to pretend like this is your new dividend, and you're going to see how many groups of the divisor you can take away from this new dividend. So in thinking, looking at our multiplication chart, I know that 6 goes equally into 36 6 times. So that was our dividing part. Then we need to multiply. 6 times 6 is 36. Second step is subtract. 36 minus 36 is 0. We know we've completely zeroed out. We know that our quotient is what it needs to be. However, if you weren't 100% sure if your quotient was what it needed to be, you could multiply your quotient by your divisor to double check your answer. In multiplying 16 and 6, you should get 96 if you divided correctly. Now, I know that 16 is my quotient. However, I forgot 16 what? $16, 16 rainbows. I go back and I need to check and reread my word problem. Now, you know what you need to answer because it's always at the end with the question mark, and it usually starts with a how. So it says, how many racers can he buy? He being Jimmy. I remember that my quotient is 16. So I know that Jimmy will be able to buy 16 erasers. I want to point your attention over here to the check and guess. I only have 2 check and guesses because I'm proficient at multiplying with 6. However, if you're not proficient yet, you're still working on it, your check and guess would be full of lots of different possibilities of multiplying by 6. And the great part about your check and guess is, even if you get it wrong, you can always refer back to these multiplication problems when you go further into the division process if it's a longer problem. Thank you again so much, guys, for joining me tonight for learning how to divide decimals by decimals. If you are still confused about any operation with decimals, there is a video for each one: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So please sharpen up those skills, review, and let's keep on persevering. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Have a great night.